So, hey guys, I'm here with my good buddy, Scott Walters. How you doing, Scott?
I'm good. How's it going, Luke? It's good to finally talk to you in almost person, virtual person.
I know. Yeah, it would be good to do an in-person meetup. I'm sure we'll do one day. So guys, if you don't know who Scott Walters is, I'm going to put a link in the description. I'll get him to comment and then I'll pin his comment. I suggest you go check out his channel because he does some amazing content, because he's really boots on the ground in the real estate market. So you, my friend, know it better than anybody else.
Yeah, no, definitely. I appreciate it, Luke. And it's been cool because my channel, of course, blew up during the pandemic when the whole buying euphoria exploded in the real estate space. Mm-hmm. And something didn't quite pass the smell test for me. And so I really started just coming on and really warning people like, hey, this is a massive real estate bubble we're in. This is not organic growth. This was completely created out of stimulus, thin air. And as much as I like to help people buy and sell real estate, I like to help people and protect people even more as somebody who's lived through the last crash and actually lost a home. You know, this is something really close to my heart. It's very conflicted. And you came onto the channel, I think, and left a comment. And I responded to it, not knowing you had a channel yourself. And then eventually you reached out to me and I watched your channel, and I get hit up constantly now, of course, because my channel has grown so much that I'll get propositioned and solicited on a frequent basis to do interviews or whatever, somebody. But I've checked yours and I can tell you are an authentic guy. I liked your style. And like you, and I don't know if this is the case, you can tell me if I'm wrong, is I've been influenced by other channels on YouTube. And that's what inspired me to come do a YouTube channel of my own. I saw somebody speak in real talk, actually not promoting rainbows and sunshine, like I always say on my channel. And I kind of got that from you. I was like, here's a guy, you're in Canada, the housing market is euphoric. It didn't pass the smell test for you. And I'm like, so I don't know if anything you're doing on your channel, and I know if you watched me, whether you wanted me to or not, I probably had some kind of influence on, your channel. And so out of respect, paying it forward, I wanted to do whatever I could to help you, because I believe this is a serious message that has to get out, that people have to understand that real estate cycles. Yeah. And anytime we see, I always say, if this was organic growth, the real estate market, what it did, then maybe I stomach it.
Yeah.
But for me, and again, I always tell people on my channel, yes, I'm a real estate guy, but this is much bigger than real estate. And I always try to give a little bit of just some of my knowledge and insight in terms of, being level-headed. And I'm always quick to make up my mind and slow to change it. And I don't care what goes on right now. I believe that there is a serious chance that we're going to head into either a correction, a recession, or a full-blown depression. And depression cycle every 100 years, if you go back in history. So the math lines up, and I believe everything needed to produce one is there. Could I be wrong? Absolutely, 100%. Do I think I'm wrong? Absolutely, I do not think I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, and I totally agree with you there. I mean, the 100-year cycle, it's pretty gnarly as well when you go back and you actually explore history and see how things line up and how there was a sickness back then and, right before the roaring 20s. But what a lot of economists say, and a lot of people do influence me who I watch on YouTube as well, who are just in the space of like macroeconomics, who know way more than I know. And then I just try and regurgitate it and bring it down a notch so that everybody can understand it. And really what they're saying is just like, it is insane. The amount of debt in the system. I mean, the roaring 20s was like, I think it was 9-10 years, wasn't it? But now that could be 1 year. So we had the roaring 2020, and then who knows what's coming next now. It's quite the, it's going to be quite the interesting show. But, one thing that really interested me when I got to your channel was the fact that you're the, and I've said this on my channel before, you're the only guy in the world that I think I've seen in real estate who actually is a realtor, who's actually, you know, just telling the truth. And I just, I can't believe that more people in your space aren't seeing this and thinking, this isn't right. I mean, share your experiences of other realtors that you've dealt with and what their kind of mindset is on the whole situation.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that's exactly right. It's funny you should bring that up because just today I went toe to toe with another agent on this very topic. And I've shared this on my channel. I'm not super popular in every real estate office, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I'm a trained salesman. My job is to get you to buy and sell real estate, close, close, close. And I'm a seasoned, longtime salesman, right? But the
Mm-hmm.
reality is what we're seeing currently, and again, what we're seeing currently, Luke, is this. Most agents want this market to continue forever. And hey, listen, I'm in a win-win here. If this market continues forever, I'm licensed to buy and help people buy and sell real estate. I make money,
Yeah.
right? So just today I was taught, because through the YouTube channel, I've gotten a lot of people reaching out to me that want help with their real estate, and they're not always in my Southern California city where I work. And so as much as I'd like to help them, I can't, but I have a network of other friends and agents that I can refer out to and at least be part of their transaction, even if it's remotely.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to another agent that's in the Los Angeles area, a longtime friend of mine. And, I've been kind of bringing him in to help with some of the real estate needs that have come up outside of my area and his area. And he was really quite blown away because I'm like, these are people that have come from my YouTube channel. They trust me. I want you to help me with this. And here's the deal. And so he goes to my YouTube channel because he's now interested. And he's like, dude, like your YouTube channel is like, save your cash for the crash. The rich are hoarding cash. And there's a saying, and listen, folks, just so you know, one of the things that I've learned with my social media presence is always entertain, educate, and inform. Those are the three things that are always on my mind. So, and also in the news world, in the online footprint world, there's a saying, if it bleeds, it leads. And that's like clickbait, right? That's what we know as clickbait, right? So a lot of times we'll rely on heavy clickbait in order to get our audience in. My gripe has been other bubblegum and rainbow content creators utilizing clickbait, but once you get into their video, they're not backing up the thumbnail or title. They're going and telling you why it won't crash. And that's fine. If you don't think the market's going to crash, use that in your thumbnail or title why it won't crash. But if you're going to promote clickbait, make sure when I open your video, you're going to give me real talk and tell me why. So other agents, yes, it's a tricky one. I would say 9 out of 10 agents that I talk to don't believe the market's going to crash. They will want to tell me why, that this is going to keep going because the interest rates are low or, whatever. There's always a million reasons. And for me personally, I just think, there's just no way anything can experience such a high growth rate in such a short a period of time that wasn't organic growth derived through stimulus and not suffer some blowback at some point. The $1 million question is now, will it be a correction, a recession, or a depression? And you're very in turn tuned with economics and finance. Those are 3 levels of an economic downturn that we can expect. A correction is almost guaranteed. A recession or a depression are likely scenarios. So I know it's a long-winded answer to your question on how I deal with other agents in this space, but I am definitely, like you said, I'm probably the only real estate agent in the world right now that makes money off of sales, warning people maybe you might want to be careful right now.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? To your point, I think that's fantastic because I studied psychology, and it's really when people are in sales, it's very difficult to have that opposing view, especially when you're out there selling. Like, it is very difficult, even if you subconsciously believe on some level that the market is rigged. If you're going to go out and sell to people, it's very difficult for a lot of agents to actually do that. And like, they're almost persuading themselves. It's like affirmations. When you say something over and over again, you start to believe it. And I think that's what's kind of happened. People have, a lot of these agents are hearing from clients, and you're probably hearing as well, is our real estate only goes up in price.
Yeah, and you know what's cool about your channel, Luke, is that you talk about this a lot. You do talk about the psychology behind what we're dealing with. You talk, and FOMO has been the biggest one, right? In this current, what we currently experience, it's been all FOMO driven.
Mm-hmm.
And so the reality is, all we can really do is, it all comes down to calculated risk.
Exactly.
How much calculated risk are you willing to take? How far are you willing to stick your neck out for a house?
Yeah.
And so the reality is that, yes, real estate's designed to be held, not flipped and speculated. It's not the stock market.
Mm-hmm.
Now, great wealth can be achieved in real estate, but it's not by owning your primary home.
No.
By owning other people's homes, right? So you get so many people willing to leverage themselves, and all they're concerned about is what their payment's going to be. What do I qualify for? And then so now they're leveraged, and one hiccup in their income or the economy could throw them into a tailspin. When the reality is, the smartest way to buy real estate in any market, even in a bubble like one we're in now, is check the property's rent range, just in case the unexpected happens. You can jump out while you're figuring out whatever it is you need to figure out and put a renter into the house, which is what we should be concerned with anyway. We shouldn't be concerned about owning our house. We want to own other people's houses.
Exactly.
But if you just did that, instead of saying, okay, how much money do I qualify for? And seeing what kind of house you can buy, instead saying, how much money do I need to put down to make sure my payment is at or around or under this property's rent range, just in case. Now, a lot of people are buying right now all cash, big cash down payments. Great. Like, I love helping those people. The first-time home buyer, minimum amounts down, fully leveraged. One hiccup in their income, they're done. I worry about those people, even as much as I like to make money. And it sucks because I love being an agent, right? I'm a sales guy. I can sense that. Like, this guy's a sales guy. And the reality is that as much as I like being a sales guy, I don't like to see people have to lose homes.
Yeah. You bring up an excellent point there about rent range, because a lot of people don't do that. And especially we've seen here in Canada, like, the real estate market's been out of control before this crisis hit, but this crisis has blown it to a whole different new level. But the thing is, when you look at even places like where I live, which is Calgary, Alberta, and it's seen as affordable, when you actually drill it down and you look at renting versus buying. Renting, you are way cheaper. And even if you just put that money in gold, which is a pretty safe asset, then you're going to find the returns that you're going to get is going to outweigh real estate. So it doesn't make sense to buy right now. Yeah, the rent range is the best argument. And I hope everybody watching this video really realizes that, because from what I've seen across Canada and other parts of the US as well, home prices are way exceeding what they can rent out for by a lot. Like, a lot. The margin is just getting wider and wider.
Well, yeah, especially when you factor in minimum amounts down. So, for example, like, if you were my client and you're like, hey, Scott, we want to buy, and there's no and that's fine. The reality is, it's just, you need to be prepared to, and this is going to hopefully answer a couple of the early questions that maybe didn't get answered as well, is if you were to buy a house right now and you checked its rent range. You're like, what would this place rent for? Okay, cool. How much money do I have to put down to make sure my mortgage payment is where that thing would rent for? That's the mindset. And it all comes down to, like you said, really mindset, and you can become a success. We complicate so much as human beings. It's a sales guy who's got to deal with rejection and all this crap all the time. One of the things I've learned, and it's changed my life, is that, self-limiting thoughts, negative self-talk, all this stuff that we do like by accident, we don't even realize we're sabotaging ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's really just such an easy mental shift to make. If you want to be a success, that's easy. Guess what? All you have to do, set a goal and start working towards your goal. And you're now a success. That's the only difference between successful and unsuccessful people. Successful people have goals. Unsuccessful people don't.
Yeah.
And they're self-sabotaging themselves. So, it's really just so important to be a realist and understand we're at the height of the market. We're defying gravity. There's a great chance that we could see a correction occur, and there's a great chance a recession or a depression could be produced. If you come in with enough money down on your properties that it can actually rent out if it needs to, Lord forbid something happens to you, then you can weather that storm, most likely.
Yeah.
But there's people like you, when it comes to renting, if you heard of Grant Cardone, who
yes. Yeah.
So I think somebody told me, or I heard him say, is he rent? The guy's a billionaire.
Yeah.
And he rents. I'm in where I live, the median home price here is almost $2 million. This is Santa Barbara, California. Oprah Winfrey, John Travolta, President Reagan, they've all lived here. And this is the most insane, euphoric housing market in the world, right here in Santa Barbara, California. Grant Cardone rents where he lives. Right now, in this city of wealth, if you can go on realtor.com, Zillow right now, and you can type in rentals. And why, if renting's so stupid, why is there massive luxury homes in my city? I deal with it all the time, being rented by wealthy. If they're so dumb, why are they renting?
Yeah.
I'll tell you why. The best advice I ever got. I talked to a wealthy person, luxury, $40,000 a month rental. Why are you renting? You're like rich. You could live anywhere you want. Like, it's not important to own where you live. It's just important to own. We love renting. Move to the beach. Next, we're going to be in mountains. Then we're going to be here. We're going to be there. Whatever. So the reality is, for me, like you said, for the rest of us, is I put way less pressure on myself about where I live. And if I can rent a house for $2,500 a month, that would cost me $5,000 a month in the form of a mortgage. And now it's not all about the house. Because as soon as you buy a house, guess what happens? Say goodbye to your personal life. It's all about the house. You're at the big box store, picked up a gallon of paint, a new doorknob. It's just all about the house. You're tied to that asset forever. It's really important just to understand, don't base your self-worth on where you live.
Totally.
You're just setting yourself up to fail for the rest of your life. I bought into that narrative in the last housing bubble. I bought at the top. I got into a huge payment. I didn't check its rent range. Eventually, I gave it back. I was like, I will never do that again. Now I own 5 rentals.
You mentioned a good thing there, because I think really when it comes to like rental properties, you obviously want to build the wealth through rental properties. And a lot of people kind of get led down the garden path, especially here, because they think the market always goes up. And, Canada has been lucky in the respect that for the past 20 years, it's been a longer cycle. But if you go back in time before 2000 and the dot-com era, housing prices were choppy. They were up and down, like big corrections. And you've been through 2008, and what a euphoric market looks like. And having you say that this is the same and it's bigger, people should have alarm bells going off in their head. That's really the message, is like, you have to look at yourself, and it's asking yourself about the rent range. It's also asking yourself the tough question: how secure is my job? How secure is my wife's job? What is going to happen if we lose our jobs, how much money do we have? Because you don't want to be in the position of somebody, even if you own a rental property, where you're in a position that you need to sell it. You never want to be in a position where you need to sell that rental property, because then you are likely going to be with the herd.
Yeah, I mean, the
falling down.
reality is, Luke, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head is, so the reality is that we need to understand that, recessions happen. And I can only draw from my own personal experience.
Mm-hmm.
In the last bubble I bought, I had decent amount of cash reserves, right? So it wasn't like I see some people now really buying, pulling personal lines of credit, borrowing from mom and dad, depleting their savings account for the minimum amount down. Your parents are usually going to tell you, yeah, you got to buy, you got to own your house. That's stability. That's how you have to do it. But that is like herd mentality. That's not investor mentality. Get a job. That was we're told when we're young. You need a job. Okay, well, I guess I better start looking at a job. And then we're applying for every 10 jobs a day and entry-level jobs. And we finally get one offered to us and we take it. Next thing you know, we're at a job that we never really set out to get. It was just the first job offered. And then you save up some money. You should buy a house, Sonny. You need to buy your own house. And then so the next thing you know, you're buying a house. And so the reality is that, for me, when I did that, I had cash reserves, which was smart on one sense. It's like I was better off than a lot of the people are now. The mistake I made is minimum amounts down.
Right.
So what happened is when the economy turned and the job market suffered, then I had to reduce income due to a failing economy. I started supplementing my income with my savings to make my payment every month. Right? That's what we do. That's what you will do. If you buy a home right now and you can't rent it out, and the only thing you can do is make the payment, and your parents and everybody else are telling you, just keep making the payment, honey. It'll eventually come back. Keep making the payment, honey. It'll eventually come back. So you're drawing off your 401k or investment or IRA or cash reserves, making your payment. Well, I did that. And so finally my cash reserves were done. Now I'm on fumes. I had no choice but to pull the plug, right? So that's the kind of the warning right now. We look at we have this perceived wealth when our properties go up in value, but all it really is, Luke, is what we call dead equity. Unless you pull in, equity lines of credit or cash out refis, that refi is not doing it. And if you do that, if you do a cash out refi or an equity line of credit, you're just compounding debt anyway. So you're more leveraged now. So we call it dead equity. And I have tons of debt equity in my properties now, worth millions, but I don't leverage it to go buy more at the height of the I'm like you, and I have to practice what I preach. I came on YouTube and started warning people, we're in a bubble. I would never talk you out of buying, but you have to make up your mind for yourself, calculating risk to see if that's something you're prepared to do. I talk to a lot of people every day. They bought at the dip. They bought after that '08 crash. And they scooped up properties at 50% of what they were originally valued at in the height of the last bubble. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist today to figure out that this current housing market is very euphoric and in a bubble as well. It's a matter of if you want to buy in now or jump in a cheap rental and suck it up for a while and see if maybe we have a downturn and see if you're in position to buy later. That's a decision only you can make.
Yeah, no, that's totally true. You've hit the nail on the head there. And what you say about what happened in 2008 and everything like that, a lot of people don't realize that in 2007, 2006, there was a deficit of supply of homes. And really, I've talked about this before on my channel. Again, it goes back to this psychological thing that when you see that dead equity going up in value, you're going to be like, I'm getting rich. I'm not going to sell. I'm good. And then the fact is that when eventually it pops and the values go down, if you're highly leveraged and you've took out that dead equity, the bank is going to hunt you down. They're going to want that back and more. And that is something, you may not know this, but we've seen a ton of this in Canada. Like people, relying on their HELOC, especially with inflation. Like people are going into their equity on their home because they think homes are never going to go down in value. You know, I just lost my job. We'll just live off the equity for a couple of years. And it is a trap because the banks, they love to market these things. And, you know, a lot of people are going to look at that and go, hey, you know, that's free money. Interest rates are low, but that's what everybody thinks. And I always try and think, are you thinking like everybody, or are you thinking like the small portion? Because if we talk about wealth, how it's the small portion that has most of the wealth. The majority of people have nothing. And when you really think about it that way, you tend to look at decisions differently because you're like, hang on a second. If I go with the herd, how does the herd normally make out? They make out pretty badly in these situations. It becomes a point where you've just got to really tune your psychology a bit to actually, instead of just taking in all this nonsense, just really dial it down to logical decisions like we've been talking about. Rent range, and you can calculate your risk based off that, right? Because if your rent range is a lot lower than the property you're buying, then your risk is the space in between. That's the risk you're taking. And if you're prepared to take a 20-30% risk, then I mean, be my guest.
And so I think one of the things that, like you said, like, listen, there's a lot of people, like, you can borrow money cheap right now. A lot of people moving money around. And if you've got equity, you can, that's what happened right now. That's why a lot of these banks out of nowhere remove people's personal lines of credit, because they're pulling personal lines of credit because the interest rates are so low. And then they were dumping it into the cryptos and stock markets, right? So you're either doing a cash out refi in your house. Hey, that's cheap money. I'm making 10% off my stock portfolio or whatever euphoric number you were pulling. And it only cost me 3% to service this debt. I'll roll it in here. So a lot of people now are utilizing that. And if you're savvy at moving money around, hey, more power to you. Again, it just comes down to risk tolerance. How many balls do you have in the air? If something crashes, are they all going to come down? Now, me, I'm old school and I lived through a crash. So I'm going to be a lot more cautious than what a lot of people are currently, with the way current people are currently operating it today. But it's going to take about a year for the blowback to come. So for me personally, as you can tell from my cynicism, is that I believe we need to give this a year. I believe November of 2022, we're going to be having a much different conversation than we're having today.
Yeah,
I can almost guarantee. We need to make plan to come back November 2022 and heat map our economy. Temperature check our economy.
Yeah, no, we definitely should do that. And this guy came to me, he said he's having hundreds of people in his practice every month. Place called Nova Scotia, which is out on the East Coast. Very, very small. It's kind of like Maine in the US. Like, it's very small. The markets, it's always been affordable there because there's not much of an economy. In fact, fishing, he said, makes up most of their economy. But he said now people come in and they say, I bought this stock, I bought this crypto, I'm buying this rental property, and my parents are helping me. And it's just all, he said he at the start of it, he didn't think anything of it, but it's just kind of compounded because it spreads, like we saw with the toilet paper thing. And I did a video on this on my other channel way back in, I think it was August of 2020. I said, this toilet paper thing, and this was before the housing blew up in Canada. I said, this toilet paper thing has planted a seed in people's minds, which is FOMO. And they are going to pull on that string hard over the next couple of years. And that's exactly what we've seen. Stocks, crypto.
But you hit the nail on the head, really, when it all comes back to FOMO. And like you said, with the toilet paper thing, that was insanity to me. Like, that just from day one. I said, are you kidding me? Do you think I'm going to go stand in a line a mile long? Do you think I was going to go put on my rubber gloves, face mask, and goggles in a shopping cart in a Costco parking lot for 3 hours? Never. Like, I would use hand towels from the house before I did that.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of us bought into it. Like I went to the grocery store later on, and if there's some toilet paper, I was like, I'm gonna grab a few extra rolls.
Yeah.
But yeah, it all comes back down to FOMO, and you're doing great with your channel, continuing to really touch on that truth that this is really a lot of FOMO is what we're seeing, and it is psychological warfare. And because of the digital diet, the digital age, we're all very connected now. And that's the scary part for me, is because I think we're very much more connected now digitally through our devices than we were in the last pandemic. We had smartphones, we had blogs and things like chat boards and things like that. But now the markets can be moved in seconds, in mere seconds, from one trending headline. And it's really insane. I don't trust my money in a volatile asset class where a trending headline can evaporate my earnings. Like I'd rather just sit on a pile of cash and let it devalue before I dumped it into a volatile asset class. Personally, I mean, what's the worst that can happen to you? What, you missed some little run on something that you're going to have to jump in and out of and stay tied to it, or go live your life and enjoy life and just have some cash on the sidelines.
And you make two good points there that I want to kind of outline. One is that this digital age, and when you really think about the toilet paper thing, I hate to bring it back to something so I don't know the word, but basically with the toilet paper thing, obviously that was global. Like we weren't traveling between Australia, the US, and Canada. Like everybody was locked down at that time, and that spread through the digital diet. Like it was just insane. You've also got to look at what wealthy people are doing. If you want to be a success, look at what wealthy people are doing. And Warren Buffett on the sidelines, Elon Musk even. I mean, I think he's a smart guy, don't get me wrong, but the Tesla stock, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole, but he's selling lots of his stock to raise cash, and he's not the only one. There are tons of people, insiders, selling and unloading stock because they want to raise cash. Why are they raising cash? Nobody seems to. I mean, sometimes I'll go on some of these boards just to see what's people's thinking behind this. And that's when you really see they're all trying to persuade themselves why something is not an issue. Like Elon is selling lots of shares and it's not an issue because. And when you're just looking at the one side of the coin, well, how are you ever going to see the other side that is just burning away? So
yeah, no, I mean, and you'd think that would really wake a lot of people up, that they would wake up and smell the coffee on this one, right? And you're absolutely right. I've talked about that as well. When Elon Musk is selling off about, I believe his goal is 10% of his own stock in Tesla. And he's a phenomenally smart guy. He's doing this very wisely. Like my hat's off to this guy. He's obviously very smart. When you have people like that selling off a percentage of their own stocks, I mean, it just really, for me, comes down to clearly they believe that we've hit pretty much a ceiling in terms of what these stocks are capable of doing, and or they just want to make sure that they've converted some of their positions to cash because they want to have a balanced portfolio, and they may be a little heavy in certain asset classes. And at the end of the day, folks, I mean, that's really what we should all be considering, is that do we really want to be super heavy in one portfolio, but in this one get rich quick mentality that's existed since the beginning of time, and then you introduce things like cryptos that have been able to provide people very high yields of return. So it becomes addicting, it becomes euphoric, it becomes an endorphin, it becomes like an addict in need of his drug. They want, if it's providing, if I made a huge amount of money in cryptos, I would probably be in there playing that game, still trying to juice it for another return on investment. But with this ultra rich, the ultra wealthy, the world elite, the 1%, the Elon Musk, the Jeff Bezos, who are now selling off their own stock, something that they at one point, I believe, said they would never do, doing it at high levels. Like we're talking billions and billions of dollars. 10% of their stock holdings is, I don't even know, maybe you do, but I know it's hundreds of billions of dollars. I mean, that's a sizable amount of cash. Well, why? Well, maybe we've hit a ceiling. Maybe these markets can't tolerate. Maybe there's insider information. Maybe they know something we don't. Do you think there's ever been insider trading before? Insider information on the markets? It's always happened. Always. So yeah, that's a really good point. I'm just a real estate agent out here. My comfort zone's real estate. I understand real estate, you know, and I'm probably real estate heavy, but because my loan to value, meaning I owe much less on my properties than what they were, their cash flow very heavily. Even if they went down 50% in value, I'd still be cash flowing off those properties. Positive. And so 95% of all millionaires made their money in real estate, not cryptos.
Yeah, so true, Scott, so true. I think that's one big message there. And I think, you know, if you are like in real estate and you're positive cash flow and you bought in at a good point, then that's fantastic. You don't even have to buy in at a good point, in my opinion. You've just got to have positive cash flow. If you're going into something and you're having to contribute towards it, it's not an asset, it's a liability, and that costs you. So then you're even more exposed when the wheels come off, which is looking inevitable at this point.
What Luke just said was a key component that is worth touching on, and that is when you have a negative cash flowing asset. Like if you buy your real estate and it's got a negative, meaning you got to put money in to make that payment every month, that's called carrying a negative. And you don't want to carry a negative, right? You want to carry a positive. And so the best thing you can do in minimizing risk in real estate and being less, jump into a rental, a cheap rental, and grab a partner. Grab Luke, got this guy, this guy, pull your money together and go start searching properties of where you can dump, where your money put together, whether it's $10,000 each with a $30,000 buy-in on a $150,000 home. And now that payment on that mortgage, and you have two business partners, and you learn what it's like to own a rental property, just one. After a year, you'll be like, I got this. And you're going to maybe reduce to just one other partner and eventually just you yourself. Start with partners, minimize risk. Don't carry a negative. You always want things positive cash flowing for you. It's going to take you to the path of wealth. I promise you, it's tested through time.
You make another good point there, actually, because really this is a video in itself, which I plan to do, which is on value. And it's really like, what is the value? Because you mentioned like whether it's 10,000, 30,000, 50,000, 100,000, you want to be buying your real estate in a place where you're getting good fundamental value. Because the way I look at it and the way people have just got brainwashed during this pandemic is they look at places like Boise, Idaho, before the prices went up there, and they go, hey, that is really cheap. You know, I'm going to buy there. I'm going to tap out of California, buy there. And it's the same situation in Ontario, Toronto. People are saying it's really expensive here. I'm going to move Nova Scotia, like somewhere really cheap. But what's the fundamental value of that property? Because you could be buying a lemon essentially that's just cheap. And you don't go to the stock market and just go, okay, I'm going to buy the cheapest stocks, because you will be buying penny stocks and you will get slaughtered. And it's the same in real estate. You need to look at what's the fundamental value. You know, that may be buying a $2 million apartment in Manhattan. I don't know. But the fact is that you make a good point about partnering up with different people, because if you can really get together with people, make it work and go somewhere where there is actual value, might not even be in Canada, might not be in the US. I know we're exploring many other countries right now. And I think a lot of people are too small and too narrow-minded. They think it's just, I live in Canada, so I'm just going to focus on Canada.
And you're absolutely right. And I'm going to simplify it for you. I'm going to give you guys some fun homework that you can do. And I like to keep any rental property I buy within driving distance, if I can drive to it. So just for fun, do an internet search on a real estate search engine and find, let's say, $150,000 median home price area within driving range of where you're currently at, whether that's 20 minutes in your backyard, 8 hour drive, whatever, something within driving distance. And then when you find that $150,000 property, check and see what's it now. Let me check and see what it would rent for.
Mm-hmm.
So how much would this property rent for? Oh, $800 a month. Great. So then how much money do I need to put down to make sure my mortgage, property tax, insurance are going to be $700 a month? Let's say I want $100 a month positive cash flow, and then I only have to put down 30 grand to do that. And I got a friend with 10. I got another friend with 10. We've got 100 grand in the bank, but we're going to all just put a 10 grand together and go buy that property. And just, you can do this online. Start being less concerned about owning where you live, more concerned about owning where other people live. Create additional income. And even in a crash, people are going to need rentals.
Yeah. More so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. You couldn't have hit the nail on the head any better than that. Well, anyway.
All right. Well, I got to go too, but I want to thank you, Luke. I want to thank everybody. I know some of my viewers hopefully have come out and watched this. I will be sending some more, and we'll get together and do this again, because I have a feeling we're going to have a lot to talk about with what's going on right now in the economy and the housing market.
Yeah, we certainly will. So thank you so much, everybody, for watching. And I'll leave the links below on where you can find Scott. And I'm sure we'll be doing other videos.